Gatwick South Terminal, sniffer dog Badger is examining baggage arriving from the Caribbean. Customs dogs are possibly the most powerful tool in the fight against drugs, and all have their own skills. Badger is known as a cocaine specialist. He gives a clear indication on this black suitcase. The case is put back on the carousel and kept under surveillance. Whoever picks it up will then be stopped and searched to see if Badger's right. Passenger collects the suspect bag and then attempts to pass through the controls. But Customs Officer Phil is waiting for her.
Hello there. Hi. Where have you just arrived from? You showing by yourself? Could you come to a bench for us, please? Let's get come up to this one here for us. Thanks very much. Your passport, please. Have a quick look. Right, these are your bags here? Did you pack them all yourself? You got the keys, please.
Phil checks to see which is the suspect case and then asks the nervous passenger to open it.
Okay, just going to put this one for our extra machine as well, okay?
Phil can't see anything yet, but an X-ray shows what looks like organic material in the wall of the case.
So that's probably what we're looking for. I'll quickly go and do this, quickly go and spike it, just make sure.
Phil finds a white powder, which he tests to see if it is cocaine.
Just see.
The speed of the reaction indicates the quality of the drugs.
It's actually not reacting.
It's gone now, look. It's
sort of.
It's obviously not very good quality.
That's what we were hoping for, but a bit quicker and a bit more.
The purity is low, but Badger's legendary nose for cocaine has sniffed out another smuggler.
Okay, the time is 07:32, and I'm arresting you on suspicion of being involved in the importation of a controlled drug. You don't have to say anything. It may harm your defence. Do not mention, when questioned, something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence. Do you understand? Yeah.
The woman's face says it all. Bootleggers use ferries to bring in large quantities of tobacco, and officers are cracking down on so-called backy buses. Amongst all the innocent travellers, a passenger's offered a free trip away by bootleggers, as long as they agree to carry back the guideline allowance of tobacco, which the organisers then collect and sell on the black market.
Did either of you purchase or obtain anything while you were away?
I've just got 100 CDs.
100?
Yeah.
Yourself? Yeah. And what
And I
about
got
you?
some tobacco.
Yeah, how much have you got?
20
what?
20 packs of 10.
Right, OK. Can I ask you just to pop through there and
Yeah.
that officer just to have a quick look at your bag?
This passenger has 10 kilos of tobacco worth nearly £2,000. Now it's up to the officers to find out if it's for her own use. If not, it will be seized. In Bristol, dozens of flights a day arrive from outside the EU. Officers target these flights to make sure no one brings in more than their allowance of 200 cigarettes to sell on the UK's black market. Usually bags are X-rayed to catch the bootleggers in the act, but today a passenger hurrying through the customs channel alerts Jane, who pulls him in for a chat in the search bay.
Have you got any cigarettes?
No.
None at all? No? Can you just get that one up on the bench and I'll just have a quick look in it, please?
Well, I won't walk away now, just take it.
You have got cigarettes?
Yes.
What? Can you just get that up there?
The initial lie didn't work, and it's closely followed by another.
It's only that one I've got.
Right, OK.
But Jane's having none of it.
Can you get the other case just up on that bench and open it up for me?
Both bags are full of Turkish cigarettes, and the passenger is full of lies.
Have you got any in your hand luggage? Yeah, all right.
Take it, are you?
Yeah. Well, you are, yeah.
We're not under arrest, so
No.
no.
What?
Come walk away.
Well, we'll do you some paperwork. You are obviously over the allowance, so they are
We are,
going to
but
be
obviously
seen.
it's not against the law to do it.
Well, what I'm going to do is do you some paperwork.
The goods will be seized and destroyed. And if he's had goods seized before, he may face a fine or a prison sentence. In Portsmouth, Nikki's now questioning the ferry passenger carrying 10 kilos of tobacco to work out if she may be carrying it for someone else.
How many times have you been on previously?
I was here last month.
Last month?
No, sorry, September.
Okay.
The 2nd.
Right, and how many times have you travelled on the Bilbao this year?
About 3.
About 3 times?
Yeah.
Okay, have you been stopped by customs before?
No.
No.
A few simple checks tells Nikki that this passenger is also telling lies.
She normally brings in 3 kilos and a full quantity of cigarettes as well. I haven't done that, but that was back then. Just see if she's been jobbed before. So as well. She's a well-stocked customer.
Lying to a customs officer isn't a good idea, especially if you want to keep your tobacco. But Nikki suspects she's carrying it as part of an organised backy bus.
Some of these are for some of your family?
Yeah.
Okay. And how much money have they given you towards their contribution towards the goods?
They haven't really given me anything because I'll give them gifts, you know, for Christmas.
Right, okay, so you don't expect to receive any payment of any sort for these goods? How much should they cost you?
£340.
£340 for all of it?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
It turns out the woman's travelling on a coach known to customs as one of their regular backy buses. The passenger is offered an interview, but she decides to give up.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not under arrest.
I'll leave the stuff. Have you got the passport? Because there's other people waiting to go home, you know what I mean?
Okay, so you don't want... Do you want me to detain the goods or do you just want to abandon them?
Just abandon them.
Just abandon them?
Passport, yeah.
Okay, so you don't want to stay for interview and you do not want me to detain your goods?
I need to get home. My father needs me and there's people waiting on the coach.
Okay, so you just want to leave your goods and walk away?
Yeah.
Okay.
Knowing that organisers of backy buses tell their carriers to abandon their goods in case they give too much away in interview, convinces Nikki she's done the right thing. But the woman insists she's done nothing wrong.
It's over. We're not doing no drugs or nothing. You know, shouldn't they? Thank
There's
you.
your passports back. She has been stopped by customs before, even though she claims that she hadn't. I was not happy in my own mind to let her proceed with the goods unless I knew they were for her own personal use, and on this occasion, I don't believe they were.
Back in Bristol, Jane's waiting for the results of background checks on the man caught with 11,000 Turkish cigarettes.
Have you ever been stopped by customs before? Never?
No, I've never been stopped.
So if I check the records now, I'm not...
The checks reveal this to be yet another lie.
Just a record to see if he's had anything seized from him before, or if she's had anything seized from him before. I don't think he has, but he's been stopped before, and he's been issued with a notice 1.
He said to me initially, I said, have you got cigarettes? He went, no. I said, well, I'm going to look in your bags. And he said, oh, they're full.
Oh, right.
And he said that he knows.
Okay. Fair enough.
So I'll just get rid of him, I think.
The man has been stopped before, but it's his first seizure, so escapes a fine. Although he's lost the cigarettes, which will be added to the billions taken off the black market by customs each year.
You could tell that this was for resale because of all the different
brands, yeah. And there was no luggage.
Yeah.
And they were both trying to race through without getting eye contact with anyone. And that was why I went after him, because I think he was trying to get out quite quickly.
Meanwhile, the woman in Gatwick South Terminal won't be leaving just yet.
Right, just leave that there. Just come around here. Go and take a seat on the far side, please.
Okay, do you understand why you've been arrested? No. Okay, we found what we believe to be a controlled drug in your bag.
She's keeping quiet. Not surprising, as there's around 1 kilo of pure cocaine in her suitcase.
So it's all the way around the bag. You can feel it as well, how thick it is. Good job.
The woman's taken to the custody cells for questioning. If found guilty, she could be facing a long prison sentence. The drugs worth nearly £50,000 have been taken off the streets, and it's all thanks to Badger.
There's always that time between the indication when they actually find it. Sometimes it can be up to sort of quarter of an hour before they actually give you the thumbs up there's something there. That's a bit of a worrying time. But with that indication, more or less knew there was something there straight away.
Still to come, some odd behaviour arouses suspicion in Gatwick.
Okay, has anybody asked you to bring anything back for them?
Not this time.
Not this time.
No, not this time.
Coming up, officers board a yacht and find an honest drug smuggler.
And as they stepped aboard, he turned round to them and said, "Oh, right, well, OK, the game's up, there's 6 tons on board."
The UK's airports are where customs make most Class A seizures. Today in Gatwick, officers are waiting for targets suspected of bringing in cocaine from Trinidad. The 2 women could be the first cocaine job ever for new officer Mark.
Nervous because the rest of the team are all going, this is it, this is a job. They've definitely got it. So I'm nervous. Really trying not to be.
2 drug couriers carrying 3 kilos of cocaine were found on this flight yesterday. These 2 women were meant to be on that flight, and their highly excitable behaviour is raising suspicions further.
Thank you. Okay, has anybody asked you to bring anything back for them?
Not this time.
Not this time?
No, not this time. We were too naughty to do it this time.
Okay, right. Is it back to work then on Monday?
No, children, we're housewives.
Yeah, got a lot of
small housewives too. Cooking and cleaning.
Obviously, just flying out somewhere very nice and...
Jeez, that was horrible.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was
They're so rough and rude.
And then dogs are treated like rats.
And we could be kidnapped. We had to be escorted everywhere we went.
Okay. So it's going to sound a silly question, but so obviously the tickets for getting out there and staying out there could be quite expensive. How did you pay for your tickets?
Somebody provided us them.
Oh right, that was nice of them. Who was that then? Was that
Tony?
that was nice of him. Why did he do that?
He's got quite a lot of money, to be honest with you.
Their behaviour and their story convince Mark that he's about to get his first cocaine seizure, but the first swab shows no trace.
Completely clear.
Chris joins Mark to dig a little deeper.
Hello.
Christopher.
Oh, really? Right, now, do you need a hand?
Yeah, would you like to do my one?
Actually, if you've just taken the words out of my mouth.
Or do you want me to
or if you want to pop
for
this
you?
through, just... Yeah, well, it was just...
Oh, yes.
Oh, how exciting.
Not as exciting as it sounds.
I'd like an X-ray while I'm here.
Well, we could actually arrange that if you wish. But not just yet.
We'll cross that... We'll cross that bridge in a minute.
Okay, that looks about done. Okay, I'll take this one away. Yeah, don't worry, we'll get that sorted.
I'll come with you.
That is obviously...
There's something not quite right there. Yeah. The fact is it's not opening and closing properly, which to me is a bit suspicious. Feels a little bit heavy at the bottom here. I'll just have a quick look.
Where are you taking him, Michael?
I'm sure he'll be as gentle as he can.
The bags are clean, but with so much to gain from smuggling, sometimes couriers carry drugs inside their bodies.
We'll go for a strip search, presumably, rather than... What I'm about to do, I'm going to go and speak to a colleague because I'm going to ask somebody to do a search of person. Yeah, because of... well, that's not something that we can do now. It would just be a visual... it would be a visual inspection. Well, because of... Where you've come from... Hang on just a second. Hang on just a second. Where you've come from, you've both said to me, obviously, you're housewives, you don't have the money. Obviously, you said that Uncle Tony's paid for it. No, that's absolutely fine. But obviously, we come across people that don't have money, that other people pay to go out and bring drugs in. So it's something that we need to check.
They're not happy, but a body search will find the truth.
So the quicker I go, the quicker it gets done. All right?
Officers aboard the cutters protect our coastline against drug smugglers, who are a constant but invisible threat. These high-powered ships operate in all weathers, but in September 2000, A storm off the coast of Cornwall drove them back into Falmouth in search of shelter. Always on the lookout for suspicious activity, they noticed another vessel taking refuge from the heavy seas.
The vessel, rather than coming into Falmouth, it turned and went to the other side of Carrick Roads, which is into a small harbour, which is actually St Mawes.
The officers thought it was a local, but then watched as it tied up in a dangerous position.
As the tide started to go out, they realised that this mooring was actually on a mud bank or a sand bank, and the yacht was actually settling and starting to tip.
Always ready to respond to a fellow sailor in need, the cutter decided to help.
So they launched their onboard rigid inflatable, their rib, motored across into St Mawes Harbour, went to the vessel and challenged it.
The officers had come to help, but the man on board was a smuggler who made a startling confession.
And as they stepped aboard, he turned round to them and said, "Oh, right, well, OK, the game's up, there's 6 tons on board."
The officers' act of charity had paid dividends.
They were completely flabbergasted. The first reaction was, well, what do we do now? And then somebody managed to sort of, I better get a notebook out and make a note of this, because effectively I've got a confession already before we go to court. At which point they arrested him.
The skipper was a man called He led them into a cabin to see the drugs for themselves.
There were bales of cannabis literally in every available space within the vessel.
They also found evidence he wasn't working alone.
But 2 passports were actually found on the vessel. So they decided that the best thing to do was to remove him from the vessel. 3 of the cutter crew stayed on board the ketch and wait and see if the crew came back in the morning.
Accomplices did return, right into the trap.
It was about 8 o'clock in the morning. 2 men jumped into the cockpit of the yacht, and basically the cutter crew arrested them there and then.
The men joined their skipper at the police station, where his unusually frank confessions continued.
And he was presented to the custody sergeant. He was then asked, "What's your occupation?" To which he replied, "I'm a drug smuggler."
This time, however, he'd failed. On the day of the trial, all 3 pleaded guilty to their part in the crime.
Mr. was subsequently sentenced to 10 years imprisonment, Mr. to 4 years imprisonment, and Mr. to 5 years imprisonment.
3 more criminals were behind bars, thanks to the keen eyes of the officers and a stroke of luck.
The street value at that time was estimated to be in the region of £14.5 million. At the end of the day, the vessel being forced into Falmouth was really the only reason that we were able to intercept this load. Without that, it's very unlikely anybody would have known that this consignment of drugs was on its way.
Back in Gatwick's North Terminal, Mark is still hoping to find his first drug smuggler. His 2 female suspects are about to be searched. So far, they've cooperated, but the daughter is getting angry.
The search, yeah, obviously I can...
We're going to have a search. As soon as we've had that search, I think we should be able to leave. We've got children to get back to. You're delaying us for no reason. Once you've searched us, you know we have nothing on us, so why are we still holding your custody?
Their story suggests they're carrying drugs, and Mark waits expectantly outside for the results.
Bend over slightly. No, slightly. That's right, and part the cheeks of your bottom.
The strip search finds nothing, but Mark refuses to give up just yet.
A pair of shoes from the lady that we've just searched. I'm going to swab them with our tool that checks for drugs, as it can be an indication that they've swallowed drugs. So I shall do that, get a result. A small indication.
The indication means Mark wants to do a body scan.
0.5, something to think about. With these indications, keen to go for an X-ray, which the mum has already sort of informally said she's happy to do.
What about the daughter in terms of X-raying? Do you think she'll be happy to do that?
She's not happy to be here at the moment.
You don't think they're going to stay? You're going to have to look at arresting them?
Worried about the daughter's reaction to the X-ray, they decide to arrest them.
I'm arresting you on suspicion of being involved with the importation of a controlled drug. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned, something which you later rely on in court.
Who wants to go first then? Let's get moving.
The daughter agrees to be X-rayed first. In just a few seconds, Mark will know if they've swallowed packages of cocaine.
We ain't swallowed nothing, believe you me.
Right.
Against the odds, both scans are clear. And Mark admits that this won't be his first Class A drug bust.
7:58, you're unarrested.
Thank you very much.
Mark and the ladies part as friends.
And you're glad we weren't smugglers, aren't you?
Yes and no.
Why no?
Because I haven't had my first...
Catch of the day.
Exactly. Well, I haven't had. Well, I'm still fairly new at this, and I haven't had my first successful job yet. Not that I'm wishing you particularly were a drug smuggler, but you know.
But, and we do understand drugs is very bad in England, and we would not contribute to bringing in drugs. Because my husband died of a heroin overdose, my brother died of a heroin overdose, so I do understand drugs do not need to be in this country. I've got 4 children who I don't want on drugs, you know what I mean? So I'm anti-drugs, and I understand why you have to do this, you know what I mean? And all good on them, all good on them, yeah.
The cocaine.
So he's a Class A drugs dog.
A £200 million fraud spirals out of control.
It's too much of a good thing. They did get greedy.
And officers are on the hunt for illegal fags in Bristol.
Like possibly the one that just went through. And that looked like it did have quite a few in that one.
In Bristol, Anne and Erica are on the hunt for tobacco smugglers.
This is the Dalaman flight coming from Turkey, currently not in the EU, and the allowance for that is only 200 cigarettes.
Tobacco is now so highly taxed, the black market is booming, and nearly 1 in 5 cigarettes smoked in the UK is illegal, either counterfeit or smuggled in illegally, avoiding UK duty.
We'll be looking for anything over about 400 really at the moment. Like possibly the one that just went through. And that looked like it did have quite a few in that one, so.
Joe stops the passenger, whose attempt to dodge duty looks set to end in tears.
Right, basically we've got a female passenger who's come in from Turkey, and she's got 1,800 cigarettes. So what I'm going to do today is seize 1,600 cigarettes off her and give her back 200 as a statutory allowance. I'm not sure how she'd take it. I don't think she'd be too happy, but I don't think she'd be angry. I think she'd be more upset, which is harder usually. Don't mind a bit of anger, but it's just when they cry, which is a bit difficult. As you know, you are over the allowance. The allowance is 200, OK? On this occasion, I'm going to give you the 200 allowance back. That's all I can do. I can't do anything more than that, I'm afraid.
So I've just spent all that money on nothing.
Sorry?
Just spent all that money on nothing.
Well, I'm afraid there's not really a lot more I can do.
I can't have 400 now.
Sorry? No, you can only have the statutory allowance. I'm afraid just 200. Gives me no pleasure to seize these cigarettes. This is when it's this amount. I have no choice, I'm afraid. OK?
Gives you no pleasure to stop.
OK.
And I just knew. I had a feeling when I pulled through nothing to declare, I thought, uh-oh, he's got me. I could just see the gleam in his eye.
I generally felt bad because, although I believe she knew what the allowances were, I still think for anyone it's still difficult to have money taken from you.
The passenger seems surprised, but it turns out Joe has caught a regular offender.
I've got away with it for about 9 years. I shouldn't have said that because he's just behind me today.
It may be a small seizure, but replacing the cigarettes will cost the passenger hundreds of pounds. In Gatwick, the X-ray has picked up a bag with some suspicious contents. It's put back on the carousel while Calvin watches from a distance to identify the bag's owner. The passenger's girlfriend is walking ahead, a tactic often used by smugglers to avoid detection. Calvin follows the passenger through the channels, where the Class A drugs dog Rossi gives an indication on the same blue bag. The questions asked by the officers are seemingly obvious, but the answers given can be used to build up a prosecution if anything's found.
So this is all your baggage? Is all your baggage, sir? Yeah, and these are baggage you can't with you? Yeah. Has anybody given either anything to bring into this country? Okay, just have a quick look in the blue bag then. Yeah, just the blue one, is it? We'll start with that one. We'll start with that one. Always start with the bottom one. See what this is? Don't touch it. No. Okay, apply booze to be drunk.
The suitcase is full of sealed packages, which look like cannabis. The couple are arrested immediately.
I mentioned when questioned, something which later rely on in court. Anything you do so may be given in evidence. Do you both understand? Do you understand? Is that yes? Do you understand? Yeah? Okay. All right, let's take out the back now.
Cannabis is a Class C drug, but a quantity like this is worth thousands of pounds, so the investigation starts immediately. And Calvin needs to make sure the right people feel the full force of the law.
Between 10 and 15, probably. It's probably like 15 kilos. I mean, obviously we'll have to spike it first and test it, to establish, do a field test to establish what the drug is. I'll make an assumption that it's cannabis. Okay, and he'll explain your legal rights.
Whatever the packages contain, it's not looking good for this suspect.
Okay?
Off the coast of Cornwall, Customs cutter Searcher is waiting for orders.
We've just had some intelligence come in. Basically, they've found a length of rope with an anchor. There's nothing to say it's what it is, what it's for, but the locals have never seen it before. They don't know what it's about. They've handed it into Customs and said, we think there's something a bit iffy about that. This is a very old way of smuggling. It's actually putting things in the bottom and putting it in a buoy and actually hanging it off the rope. They've been doing it here for hundreds of years with brandy in the old days, but it's happened before with drugs. Okay, full speed, carry it as you can.
Searcher's crew man the vessel 24 hours a day, ready to respond to any threat to the UK's borders. With over 5,000 drug seizures a year, the threat's very real, and smugglers use any tricks they can to slip through the net.
Just the green flag. There's another 3 there. There's another one there. So the whole place is full.
It costs millions to operate these high-powered vessels with their onboard speedboats, but they're at war with well-financed criminal gangs who can make millions from a single importation and are willing to protect their profits with force.
We've still got light. We won't have it for much longer. So we'll have to be as quick as we possibly can here to try and get this job done.
Have you seen any cops that you don't recognise? Yeah.
Local fishermen are a good source of information, and there have been unusual pot markers sighted in the area.
There's a dead body on the end of this. I'm not going to be happy.
In the failing light, the officers check as many markers as they can.
Chris?
It's a real one, isn't it?
Yeah. Look. There's one back here as well.
Yeah.
There's one more body. This might be the golden nugget. I think they're all parts in there. What do you say? What do you reckon?
Got back in, I reckon.
Yeah.
Not all operations end with a seizure, and Kirsty hopes the intelligence gathered here may prove valuable in catching future smugglers.
So
what we'll do, we'll actually pass that information back inland and we'll pass that back to intelligence to see whether they can match it with any other activity that's been going on, and potentially keep an eye on that area just to make sure that we know where to find it and what the potential of it is.
In Gatwick, the custody suite is where suspected smugglers are welcomed back into the UK. It's a significant seizure, but Calvin's job now is to make sure everyone involved in the importation is identified and prosecuted.
What are you doing? Right, sit down, just sit down. What we'll do is we'll let the custody officer know you're here, okay? And then he'll come and see you and explain your legal rights. Okay? Sit there now. Ah. Okay, again.
Intercepted Green Channel, North Terminal.
North Terminal. And opened a blue suitcase, which he did. Unzipped it, found it to contain foam. Under the foam were tape back packages, which I believe to be controlled drugs.
11:38.
Cell number 2. Before you do, you can take your shoes off and leave them outside and your belt. I'll get you. You've got a blanket, maybe. You take your shoes off now. Just leave them outside here. Okay. Do you want any drink of water or anything? Sure? Okay. You can't smoke here, I'm afraid. The name on this bag relates to the female. That will tie her into this bag as well as him.
It's unclear who's involved, so the female passenger must also be kept in custody.
But it looks like there could be controlled drugs in one of the bags. You understand? Sorry? No, I don't know yet. They all found out when they do, they'll let me know. Let you know. We just suspected that they are drugs at the moment.
Calvin suspects the packages contain cannabis. And the smell is unmistakable.
We check them all just to make sure they all are cannabis rather than we've had concealments before where some are being cannabis and some being cocaine.
They do all contain cannabis.
And the weight of the packages is 20.63 kilos.
It's a huge amount of drugs off the streets. Still to come. Suspected cocaine smugglers in Gatwick.
You swab the bag and they tell you whether or not the bag's been contaminated with drugs.
Coming up. A positive drug swab means an intimate body search for this passenger.
Please don't make any sudden movement. I will be going into your groin at some point.
Over 1,000 kilos of cocaine is seized by customs in the UK each year, and Gatwick is a prime point of entry. Sniffer dogs are used on the front line in this fight against Class A smugglers.
He looks for cocaine and heroin, so he's a Class A drugs dog. Trace smells or large amounts of that kind of scent, that's what he goes for.
This passenger was stopped by immigration officers and has now been brought into customs to be searched. Sniffer dog Rossi picks up a scent from one of his bags and gives the signal to the officers. But picking up a scent isn't enough. Officers must find the drugs before someone can be charged.
UK Customs, okay. Is that your bag, yeah? Who paid for your ticket?
Yeah, I paid it, but somebody
Someone booked it for you, but you gave them the money, yeah? And how do you know this person? How do you know the person who booked it? It's a close friend.
He's nervous and his story sounds suspicious.
Just take a swab of your bag, your things. It tells me whether or not you've been in contact with drugs at all, okay? Okay, if you spare me a sec again. Basically, you swab the bag, and we have two machines, and they tell you whether or not the bag's been contaminated with drugs. Like, it's given the reading now, showing that it's picked up particles of cocaine. Could indicate that
One, that they could be a user. At some point there's been drugs within the bag. There's stuff there now, or stuff on their person. Obviously you've got to go down every avenue and rule out every avenue. I've got a reading for cocaine from your bag and from your clothes and from your laptop bag. Okay, can I just ask, do you use at all? Yeah. Do you use cocaine at all? Have you used cocaine in Trinidad? No, okay.
Finding nothing in the bag, Alex requests authority for a body search.
Can I have a request for an SOP, please? That's been authorised, that's fine. I give him my reasons, gave him 4 reasons. Why? Nervous demur, eyeing track reading, dog indication, and he's got very little luggage for 2 weeks stay. What I'm going to do now is take him into the search room and conduct a search. Okay, I'm not going to touch any skin, okay? Got no need to, obviously I can see. If I can just ask you to place your arms out for me. Put your palms up into the air, okay? Please don't make any sudden movement. I'm going to do one side at a time. I will be going into your groin at some point, okay? But I will make you aware when I do that. Okay, again, I'm going into your groin. Okay, if you want to take a seat for me, please.
But smugglers don't only carry drugs on their bodies.
We swapped the inside of the shoes because obviously you have swallowers who come into the UK with packages inside them. Packages give out like sweat and they go into your pores and you sweat through the bottom of your feet. So it can give a reading to say that there's possibly packages inside. So it's another area that we test.
It's another frustrating result for Alex, but this man's troubles are far from over.
Okay, if you'd just like to wait by the bench for me. Back to immigration now, yeah, and then they'll make a decision whether they land him from there, but from our side, we're happy. So, if you got disappointed on every one person you stopped, you'd be extremely disappointed and you'd probably lose the enthusiasm to keep looking. So you just get back out there and start again. Stop another passenger.
Customs officers in Dover have an entirely different threat to deal with. Thousands of trucks a day pass through the freight lanes, and the detection teams work round the clock to try and spot which ones may have something to hide.
One just gone over the top. There it is. I've never seen an unmarked one.
The intelligence hub selects most targets, but it's experience which has alerted Richard to this truck, and he decides it's worth searching.
Tyres in a fridge. I've never seen an unmarked fridge on an Omega Pilsner unit before. Never. Especially with tyres in.
Smugglers often use awkward loads like tyres as cover, and so Customs have developed X-ray machines big enough to scan an entire truck.
So we might end up scanning it. That's a brand spanking new fridge, and like that's not a refrigerated load. A little bit odd.
The truck's under pressure to deliver, so this Polish driver isn't happy to learn his truck will have to be scanned. If it finds anything suspicious, it may have to be offloaded, which the driver's company will have to pay for.
They get a little bit aggy about it. They don't like the fact we do that.
The X-ray picks up an anomaly. There looks like there may be a secret compartment hidden in the floor. Richard needs to find out what it is, but he doesn't want to cost the driver money if he can avoid it.
No, I think it's in the floor.
Is it the floor? Yeah.
But what is it?
I think it's ribs.
We've got to make a decision as to whether this is worth offloading or not.
The team are all highly trained mechanics, so Richard decides to try to access the suspicious area from underneath. Customs officers also take on gangs involved in carousel fraud, which steal money from the VAT system. It works like this. Criminals set up fake companies to import high-value goods VAT-free. The goods get exported back out to fake companies in Europe, at which point VAT is reclaimed. These shipments get stamped at the border, but then simply turn round and come back into the UK. The same goods go in and out of the country again and again. In 2001, a man was at the centre of a carousel fraud so massive, it would take the next 6 years to bring him to justice.
By looking at him and financial profiling of we basically determined that in a space of 3 years he'd gone from being a pallet repairer to a multi-millionaire. He'd become a major thorn in the side of attacking the UK's VAT system, and we embarked on what became an 8-month-long surveillance operation to identify those he was associating with, those he was trading with. We effectively identified a total of 7 people. They were just average people, so they weren't particularly well-educated people, and certainly not with a business background.
Day after day, the surveillance team looked on as the fraud increased. His 6 accomplices gradually lost control. The goods were going round and round on the carousel so fast, they forgot who was selling what to who.
They became blasé, and as often you see within fraudulent activities, they did get greedy. It's too much of a good thing.
In May 2002, it culminated in a meeting at the Trafford Centre in Manchester about keeping the fraud on track. And of course, they were unaware that they were under surveillance at the time.
The surveillance team tracked all the suspects to the meeting and captured it all on film.
Whereupon we were all able to get inside, in effect get into the CCTV control room for the Trafford Centre, zoom in and record the whole meeting. A surveillance officer's dream.
With the gang making around £10 million a week from the fraud, tensions were clearly running high.
The meeting at the Trafford Centre was the first time that they'd actually all been filmed together. Come the end of the meeting, when the paperwork appeared to be sorted out, they all got up and it was very jovial, much backslapping, hugging, as if there were no problems.
But in fact, their problems were about to get a lot worse. The officers had decided enough was enough.
On the morning of the 8th of July 2002, the carousel, the conspiracy was taken out.
The 217 fake companies had stolen over £180 million, and it took 4 years to sift through the mountains of paperwork. The 9-month trial found 6 of the 7 guilty as charged, who all received at least 5 years in prison. Seen as the organiser, received the heaviest sentence.
Who was the principal, received a 12.5-year prison sentence. It was a very rewarding result for the effort that had been put in, and the signal to the criminal fraternity as a whole that we are going to take these frauds seriously, and you do get similar sentences to what you can get in major drug cases.
Back in Dover, however, a lengthy search has found nothing.
I think you just got to use a bit of common sense, haven't you? So at the end of the day, they're going to charge you 150 quid to offload it, find nothing more, you just make a judgment.
Pierwszy raz na Anglii, samochód jest i pewnie dlatego kontrol. Skoro muszą, to muszą.
Richard decides the truck doesn't need to be offloaded, and the happy driver can carry on and deliver his load. But on the bay next door, a white van has been pulled, and this time, it's a hit. The van's full of cigarettes destined for the UK's black market, but not anymore. The drivers have been arrested and taken into custody.
They stopped the vehicle, questioned them, and whilst they questioned the driver, they went in the load and examined the load, and on opening a couple of the boxes, one of the pallets detected large quantities of cigarettes.
It's a and quick-fire questioning proves to be the downfall of this hapless smuggler.
Did you book your own ticket?
Yeah.
When did you book it?
Friday.
Right, how much did it cost you then?
You
didn't book it, did you?
Gatwick Airport's South Terminal, a flight from Puerto Plata in the Dominican Republic has just landed. Vigilant UK border agency officers, with the aid of highly trained sniffer dogs, are always on the lookout for drug smugglers from the Caribbean. And one passenger has triggered great interest. The man's nervous behaviour has led to him being targeted. As he passes through the customs channels, Officer Michelle has been observing his body language.
Thank you.
She decides to intercept the passenger to ask him a few questions.
Hello, sir. You've got your passport on you, please. That's great. You've got your ticket as well. Any ticket? And where do you live, sir? In Holland? So how long are you here for? How long are you here in England for?
No, today I'm going to Holland.
Right, so you've been to Puerto Plata, come here, and from here you're going back to Holland, are you? When? When are you going back to Holland? Is it a flight from here or a flight from Heathrow? All right, have you got the ticket for that?
Michelle keeps firing questions to find out if he's telling the truth.
No cigarettes at all, nothing like that. Okay, you also know it's illegal to bring any controlled drugs, weapons, explosives, etc. into the country, yeah? And these are your bags, are they? Did you pack your bags yourself? So you know what's inside them, do you?
The man's travel plans just don't seem right, and Michelle is becoming increasingly suspicious.
Just been out on a package holiday. Not staying with friends or anything, went out on his own. Works in a factory in the Netherlands. He's flying on back today. They're all right, aren't they?
The X-ray shows no concealments of drugs, but a concerned Michelle still isn't happy.
Sometimes we have a problem with people bringing drugs through on their bodies, okay? So therefore we just want to give you a rub down of your body, okay? But we won't do it here, we'll do it out the back, okay?
As the man's led away, there's a feeling his story just doesn't add up.
He only works in a factory in Holland, so it's obviously not really well paid. He's picked to go to Porterplatte, which is an unusual place for someone to go. He's gone on his own, and he's booked it all last minute. He's got all the extras you can possibly have. So it makes his holiday very expensive just for 7 nights and to go on his own. It's just bizarre, that's all. You just get feelings with some things, and it's just doesn't seem right.
In a dramatic turn, the man is taken for a full body scan to find out if he's smuggling drugs inside his body.
Do you want anyone else to be here? No?
To be told you're here with us.
You are entitled to read that if you wish, but obviously...
Michelle is about to discover whether her instinct is correct.
The other way, sorry. Yeah, if you stand like this, that way. Yeah?
Yeah.
Go up onto the top, onto travelator. If you can breathe in as well, that will help us.
Okay. Ready, breathe in. Fine, hold.
As he holds his breath, the man's fate hangs in the balance. His day is about to get a lot worse. He's stuffed with packages of drugs.
Okay, sir. From what we can see on the X-ray, looks like you have packages inside you. Time is 08:53 hours. I'm arresting you on suspicion of being involved in the importation of a controlled drug. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention one question, something that you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Do you understand that? Okay, sir.
He's got little packages which will probably be condoms full of cocaine, and now literally we've got to take him down, get him custodised, and then he needs to concentrate on getting those packages out because he doesn't realise, you know, if one of those burst or leaked, it could cost him his life.
At Gatwick's North Terminal, a flight has just arrived from Dubai, a country outside the European Union with widely available cheap cigarettes. Officers have been alerted by immigration to a man waiting at the luggage carousel. He collects the last of his cases and proceeds straight through the nothing-to-declare customs channel. Officer Paul stops the passenger to ask a few questions.
Hiya. Can I cut word, please? Hi. Are you travelling on your own?
Yeah.
Do you have your passport with you, please? Yeah. It's just Dubai you've been to, is it?
Yeah, it's just Dubai.
What was the reason for your trip?
I was just going to travel.
To Dubai?
Yeah, it's like, it was a nice place.
What do you know about Dubai then? It's just hot. You haven't got a ticket?
No.
How much does the ticket cost you? Did you book your own ticket?
Yeah, I can't remember how much it was.
When did you book it?
Friday.
Right, how much does it cost you then?
I can't remember.
You didn't book it, did you?
No.
Right, who booked it?
I don't know.
Right, you travelling with somebody else?
No.
Where do you actually live?
Newcastle.
How are you getting back to Newcastle?
Coach.
Coach.
Having already exposed a lie, Paul is wary of anything the man says.
The green channel. Do you understand what the green channel means?
No.
Right, have you been abroad before?
Just to America.
To?
America.
Okay, when you go abroad, you're allowed to bring back certain goods.
Yeah.
200 cigarettes, for instance. 1 bottle of spirit. How many have you got?
I'm not sure. That's probably the next one.
And that one?
A little bit in the bottom.
How much do they cost you?
Tabs are slang for cigarettes, and the man's confession doesn't impress.
Have you ever dealings with customs before?
No, not really. Apart from the one back.
What happened?
I got deported.
Why was that? Sorry?
I took some cat across.
You took cat across?
Yeah.
Cat is an East African stimulant which is often chewed. Whilst legal in the UK, it's banned in America.
So how much money did you take out with you?
£100, £200.
Who paid for these then?
Huh?
Who paid for these?
No.
Who paid for them?
Somalians.
Somalians again?
Paul becomes aware that the Somali who paid for the cigarettes is likely to be at the airport to pick them up.
What's the name of the chap that you have to speak to on the phone?
Well,
what was the last name?
Mohammed.
Mohammed.
Yeah.
He's Somalian.
Okay.
He's out there somewhere, and there's a fair chance there's another one with him because they never ever travel on their own, so he's going to be with. Yeah. He might have suitcases already. Yeah.
Cigarette smugglers often work in pairs, and officers realise there may be a chance of locating another smuggler as well as the recipient of the cigarettes.
How much did you get paid for doing this?
£200.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Mind you get a holiday out of it?
What?
You get a holiday out of it?
I did the thing.
What do you do?
Nothing. I had a car crash a couple of months ago and I need to like raise £3,000 excess reinsurance. So it's just basically make money to do it anyway.
There you go. So you want benefit?
Yeah.
Back at the airport's South Terminal, the Dutch drug smuggler who risked his life to bring packages of drugs into the UK is being taken into custody. He's made aware of his rights by the custody officer and for his own safety is told to get the packages out of his system as quickly as possible.
Basically, when people have an internal concealment, to make sure we can see if they produce anything, we change them into what we call a white paper suit, and then we can see if there's anything happening, and underneath they'll be completely naked.
The man indicates he needs to go to the toilet, but this is no ordinary toilet trip, and this is no ordinary loo.
So he's gone into the special toilet facility where if he starts producing packages, they then have to be cleaned up by the officer who's gone in with him, and then they'll be bagged up as well. So just waiting for him to come out to see if he has actually produced any.
Yeah, put them on the tins. The gentleman said he needed the toilet, and while I haven't counted them at the moment, it looks like he's produced around 20 packages, and he's told the custody officer he's got 60-something. So obviously, the quicker they're out of his system, the best chance he's got of survival, basically.
The process of washing the packages is a very dirty job, but someone's got to do it.
If one of the packages were to split, basically ends up with death within minutes, unfortunately. So that is why we try and get packages out of people as quickly as we possibly can, because the consequences of a burst package are pretty serious.
With the packages washed, Officer Paul must bag them up and weigh them to find out what quantity of drugs the man was carrying.
Definitely big packages. 344 grams of cocaine so far. If you take away a little bit for the packaging, etc., it's probably about 300 grams. 1 kilo nowadays is worth around £50,000. So he's probably carrying about £50,000 worth of drugs with him. These packages here, they're now seized from you, okay? And they're all yours, property and
The Dutchman pleaded guilty to smuggling cocaine and was sentenced to 5.5 years in prison. Further inquiries resulted in another arrest. Coming up, Officer Paul is proved right as the border agency apprehend 2 more cigarette smuggling accomplices.
If I tell great, I'll give you £200 if you bring 2 suitcases of dollars back through.
Coming up, in Bristol, one man's sweet-talking gets him nowhere.
What's the name, mate?
It's sweet.
Yeah, it's cannabis, isn't it?
Back in Gatwick, Officer Paul has intercepted a surprisingly candid Geordie cigarette smuggler. Other officers attempt to track down the Somali recipient of the cigarettes, called Mohammed. They find another Geordie lad who also confesses to having smuggled cigarettes. He then tells the officers where they can find the elusive Mohammed.
We've come out looking for a Somalian, obviously, but my colleague stopped another lad who was a Geordie as well. In the end, he did cough to being met by Mohammed, who he said has just walked out to the car hole. So we've given chase and stopped the car here. It's got 3 cases full of cigarettes.
It's a job well done by the officers. But after seizing the illegal cigarettes, Mohammed, the ringleader of the operation, is free to go.
I got told, right, I'll give you £200 if you bring 2 suitcases of towels back through. And
Okay.
it's been scared to lose my job.
Yeah.
I thought, well, may as well.
Did you not think of the consequences?
Not really, because I'm on the bones of my fucking out.
Have you got wife and kids at home? How many kids have you got? 3? Okay.
The other man from Newcastle is led back inside the airport to be reunited with his friend.
In these circumstances, what we'd normally do is just seize the cigarettes and the suitcases from them, and it stays on file. So if they get stopped again, then they'll get arrested and prosecuted for this offence and the next one. So they're very lucky, because if they'd got caught a second time with this amount of cigarettes, you're looking at a jail sentence. So from their point of view, they're quite lucky. So were you getting a fight back, or was the other chap driving you back to Newcastle?
We got paid when we got out.
You haven't been paid yet?
No, but probably not now.
With no money from the job, the lads now have another problem.
I was relying on the money from bringing the cigarettes through to get myself back home. Now I've got no money off cigarettes and no money to get myself home.
As they attempt to make the long journey up north, the 2 lads can rue the fact that their 40,000 cigarettes, with a street value of over £10,000, were intercepted.
Rather unlucky. In fact, my chap was particularly unlucky. He's only travelled abroad twice. 2 trips abroad and twice he's been caught. He said he's not going to travel abroad again. I don't blame him.
At Bristol Airport, a flight has just landed from Malaga in Spain. Border agency officers working in immigration are alerted to a couple who've been acting suspiciously. A woman dressed in black and a man in a stripy jumper head to baggage reclaim. Officer Brandon decides to follow them to monitor their behaviour.
We've got 2 targets from Malaga. We pull them on, just quick chat and check what they've got. You never know.
Brandon moves into position, ready to intercept the couple as they pass through the customs channels.
Hello, they're both customs. Just come through, please. You are together, yeah? How long have you both been away?
On holiday.
Yeah, how long?
Weeks, 2 weeks.
Okay. And where have you travelled whilst you've been away?
Oh, just around Spain, just in the Artis Costa.
Right. You stayed in one place, or?
Yeah, about all around holidays, just normal.
Okay. Have you ever been stopped by customs before?
No.
Okay. Bags packed by yourselves? Everything in the cases belong to yourselves? Right. Also, where certain things aren't allowed to be brought into the UK, drugs, weapons, obscene material. Yeah.
The man stares intently as his suitcase is searched. He then removes a mobile phone, which causes suspicion.
Okay. Sure, just part of the check, yeah? That's fine.
He gets his phone back, but seems a little agitated. Then a package is found, which might explain why.
What's the name, mate?
It's sweets. Sweets. All sweets. For kids.
Right, well, you'll open it up because you can't see what's in there. Go on.
But Brandon's not falling for that. He opens the package to check the contents himself.
Yeah, it's the sweets, is it? cannabis, isn't it? Herbal cannabis. You're not sure? You said you packed the case yourself? Yeah. All right. But this time, all right, you're under arrest, all right? Right. Basically, you're both under arrest, you're both travelling together, okay? On suspicion of importing an illegal drug, controlled drug, all right? Now, you don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention in question something that you later rely on in court, all right? Anything you do say may be given evidence. Do you understand?
With both passengers under arrest, their cases continue to be searched. And it doesn't take long to find a number of identical packages.
How much you got in total, mate?
There's no respite for officers in Gatwick as another Caribbean flight arrives from Jamaica. Suspicion was raised by a German woman who claimed to have lost the key to the padlock on her suitcase. After forcing the case open, Officer Paul discovered that the woman was carrying a significant amount of cannabis.
Okay, so if you just stand up for me, put your hands out, you put the sunglasses down.
She's arrested straight away and put in handcuffs before being escorted to the airport's custody suite for further questioning.
Presently, we have the 25-year-old German under arrest in the custody suite. So whilst she's getting her rights read to her, she's waiting for a solicitor to turn up. What we do is go through all the luggage. This is obviously where the drugs were found initially. And interestingly, she's in the top of the suitcase. She or whoever put the drugs in there has put a lot of foam around the outside of the case and around the edges of the case.
With the suitcase stuffed to the brim, it's a huge amount of cannabis for one person to be carrying.
So these are just 2 or 3 kilo blocks of herbal cannabis. And very little else.
The cannabis is bagged up. Paul needs to weigh the drugs to find out the severity of the woman's crime.
So that's 18.15 kilos. The suitcase weighed 23 kilos, so nearly the whole suitcase was cannabis. That'd be worth between 40 and 50,000 pounds.
It's another excellent find by officers. For the German woman, it's been a highly risky gamble that hasn't paid off.
A lot of them are single young females, and it doesn't surprise me anymore. We've had single young females, we've had old men of 70, we've had couples travelling together. You know, it's basically anybody that's short of money. Anyone that's desperate for money will do it for a couple of £1,000 or whatever else they've been promised.
The woman later pleaded guilty to smuggling cannabis and was sentenced to 9 months in prison. Back in Bristol, and with 4 packages of herbal cannabis found in a man's suitcase, the search now moves on to his wife. Almost immediately, Officer Brandon finds something hidden in the clothing. This time, he suspects it's cannabis resin. And as with the man's case, there's more than just one package. The drugs have been crudely concealed in clothing with little attempt to hide what's inside. As the last block is removed from the case, the couple know they've been caught red-handed.
There's 6 resin cannabis and 4 packages of herbal cannabis. I'm not sure weight at the moment. I understand what you're saying, but I can't at the moment, all right.
The man should perhaps be more concerned about the illegal drugs found in his suitcase than having a cigarette. But tampering with the drug seizure will only get him in more trouble. As the couple are taken away for a full body search, officers are eager to find out how much they found.
2.68.
2.68 kilos of herbal cannabis and 5.48 kilos of cannabis resin adds up to a haul worth over £20,000. It's a huge amount of illegal drugs removed from the streets.
It has been adopted by a higher level team, if you like, within the department, and they usually only take on the larger cases. So we wait and see, but it is a substantial amount. There's no getting away from that.
It's been an excellent day for Brandon. Less so for the couple, who'll now be detained in custody. In court, the Bristol cannabis smugglers both pleaded guilty and are currently awaiting sentencing.